Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is series of videos about SolidWorks scripting using Python. In this video, I'm going to talk about macro, Visual Basic, and how to connect SolidWorks to Python. Okay, let's start. I'm going to start a new part. And first of all, I'm going to talk about macro. Okay, if you have the macro here, you can use it. But if you don't have it, you can go to tools, and here in the macro, we have different options here, such as run, record, new, and edit. But personally, I don't like to open tools menu and then go to macro part and then start it. So if you come here in customize, in the toolbar menu, you scroll down, you can see the macro here. So if you check this box, you can have the macro in your SolidWorks main page. Okay, I'm going to explain each buttons here. First, we have record or pause macro. With using this button, you can start recording your actions and do whatever you want in the SolidWorks menu. The stop macro stop the recording the macro, and the run button can run the previous macro you have recorded. For example, I have a macro here, which I can run it now. Okay, we have a new macro button which creates a page for you that you can run your own codes there from scratch. And we have a edit macro that you can edit your previous macros. Okay, I click the record macro. Now my SolidWorks is recording my actions. I click in the front page or front plan. I create a new sketch, and I just want to create a simple circle. Okay, and then I'm going to exit the sketch. Now I have a very simple circle in my SolidWorks. Okay, I'm going to stop the macro, and I'm going to save it with the name, for example, macro 3 is fine. So I'm going just to click save, and now my macro is saved. So I'm going to delete this sketch, and I just want to know the macro is working. So I click in the run macro, uh, open my macro, and you can see the SolidWorks automatically create a circle for me in the front plan. Okay, I'm going to delete this sketch once more, and I'm going to show you how to edit the macro. I'm going to open the macro once again. Okay, here we are in the Visual Basic programming language, and all of these codes are written in the Visual Basic programming language. In this tutorial, we are going to translate Visual Basic codes to Python code, so you need to be familiar with coding, and beside that, know a little about Visual Basic. It's very simple. I'm going to explain it now. In the Visual Basic, we have something called dim, D-I-M. This is like defining new variable. We have it, for example, in C++, but we don't have it in the Python. In Python, we don't define our variables in our program. Okay, this is dim. You need to know about it. For example, you can see here in the SolidWorks or in the Visual Basic, the SolidWorks define a SWApp or SolidWorks app as an object. And for another example, bool status as a boolean. So these are different kind of variables we have in Visual Basic. Okay, the next is sub or sub main, which is the main part of our program. It's like a function in Python and other programming languages. With sub main, we are going to create a new section, and we are going to put our codes here, and at the end we need to write end sub. The next is set. Set is used to set the value of the property. For example, here, SW app or SolidWorks app is equal to application.solidworks. So it sets a SolidWorks app to application.solidworks. And we have other lines here, for example, set parts equal to solidworks.activedocs. And this is all you need to know about Visual Basic. The rest of it is very easy, and even if you're beginner in programming, you can easily translate these codes in Visual Basic into the Python codes. Okay, I'm going to show you API help. There are some documentation in SolidWorks guiding you for using macro API in SolidWorks. So if you click help button and then click API help, you can see the API help which explain all of things you can do with macro in the SolidWorks. You just need to click in the index and you have the ability to search for it. For example, I'm going to search extrude, and when I enter it, I can see everything related to extrude about macro and SolidWorks. And the most important part about this page is example. For example, we are going to click this one because we are coding in the Visual Basic and it's easier to translate it to Python code. If I click it, you can see here a very good example about how to use extrude using macro and SolidWorks, in SolidWorks I mean. And here you can see what these codes do. For example, you can just read line by line, open a new part document and blah blah blah. And you can see here we have some themes defining some parameters, I mean sub main. And here we can see a lot of codes related to how to extrude a, I don't know, a part. I think it's here. Okay, now we are familiar with macro, we are familiar with Visual Basic, and now we can go to Python and start coding in the Python programming languages. Personally, I prefer to use Notebook because based on my experience, it's easier to manage my code. So I'm going to use Notebook in this tutorial. Okay, uh, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to name it getting started dot ipynb. I'm going to enter it. Now I have a very beautiful page to write my codes to control SolidWorks API. Okay. First of all, we need to use some additional libraries in Python to be able to control SolidWorks. So I'm going to import them. The first one is win32com.client. Okay, I'm going to run it with Control plus Enter. So I have this library, and if you don't this library or other libraries that I will use them, you can just simply download them and install them using pip. PIP. Okay, the other one is import python com, and I'm going to run it, and everything is okay now. Okay, I have imported all of the necessary libraries that I needed, so I'm going to just write some codes that connect Python to SolidWorks. I'm going to just paste them here, and I'm going to look at Visual Basic code. I'm not going to copy this part of code because we don't need to define any variables in Python. So I'm just going to copy this part of the code in the sub main. Control C, I'm going to paste them here and I will explain each of them line by line. Let me look at my SolidWorks page. We don't have any sketch here. It's good. Okay. Uh, this block of code is the code I'm going to write, and this block of code is the code that I brought them from Visual Basic. Okay, in the first line, we can see here SolidWorks app is equal to application.solidworks. This is the part where we can actually control SolidWorks through codes. And we don't have it in the Python directly. So I'm going to use win32com.client and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to write a SolidWorks.application. And after that, for the second line, here we have part set part equal to SolidWorks.active doc. This means we are going to work on active doc because in SolidWorks we have a lot of docs available. For example, I can just create another part. And now I have two docs. And Python doesn't know which one I want to work with. So I'm going just to close the part 8. And here, in the second line, I'm going to say part is equal to solidworks.activedocs. So I'm going to delete this code. And for be sure, I'm going to run my libraries and then this block of code. Okay, you can see it runs perfectly and smoothly. I'm going to create another section or another block to write my codes here and not run these parts again and again. This part is responsible to connect Python to SolidWorks, so I don't need to run it every time. I just need to run a block of code which creates a simple circle for me. Okay. For this line, I'm going to just cut it and paste it here. Boolean status is a Boolean variable that shows me that this line is runs correctly or not. So Boolean is equal to part.extension.select by ID. This means it will go and select things for me, which can be anything. And in this case, it will going to be front plan. So front plan, and it has some default variable. I'm not going to go in details what are these. You can see it in api.help, but we have something here called nothing. Nothing is a variable in Visual Basic that we don't have it in Python. So I'm going to delete it, and instead I'm going to use Python com.nothing. And you can see it will work perfectly and smoothly. Okay, I'm going to manage my windows to show you how these codes works. And for the starts, they are connected. The Python is connected to SolidWorks, so I'm just going to run this code, this block of code that will select the front plan. Control Enter. You can see it selected the front plan for me. Okay. For the next lines, I'm going to translate them directly to Python. I'm going to cut this one, paste it here, and this code just create a sketch for me. And I'm going to translate it to Python. So to go to inside the parentheses, and if I run it another time, you can see it here that a new sketch is created for me in SolidWorks. I'm going to delete that because I don't need it. Okay. In the next line, I'm going to translate it here. It will clear a selection for me. If I run it here, you can see it here that the front plan was selected, but now it cleared my selection. And now I'm going to delete this line because we don't define any variables in Python. Okay. And for the next line, I'm going to cut it and paste it here a little like this. Okay. I'm going to delete set, and I'm going to delete this symbol. Okay. This is a function that creates a circle for us. I'm going to delete our previous sketch. And this is a line, or this is a function that creates a circle for us. I'm going to explain these parameters for you. But it's better to go to API help and see what this create circle function do for us, because sometimes you are going to face new functions you don't know its parameters do. So I'm going to, for API help, I copy circle, create circle, and I'm going to paste it here, enter it. We have different create circle method. One of them is on the model doc, another one is on the model doc 2, and another one is on the sketch manager. You can see here our create circle is on the sketch manager. So I'm going to enter or click this one, sketch manager, create circle method on the sketch manager. So we can see here Visual Basic is going to talk about how to define our variable and about the parameters that are available for this method: XSC, YSC, ZSC, XAP, YAP, and ZAP. And we have here the most important part, parameters. It explains what each parameter do for us. So for example, XC is X coordinate of the circle center point in meters. And for example here, XP, X coordinate of the point on the circle. This means with using XP, YP, ZP, the SolidWorks is going to calculate the radius of the circle. So for first three parameters is the coordinate of center of the circle. So all of them is 0, 0, 0. And for next three is the X, Y, and Z of the point that calculate the radius of the circle. I'm just going to show you how to create a circle with radius of 0.02 meters, which is equal to 20 millimeters. So here I'm just going to write this code, and for the next three lines I'm just going to cut them, paste them here, and translate them to Python. Okay, okay, and okay. For these three lines, it will clear my selection and close the sketch for me. And at the end, it will clear my selection again to be sure that I didn't select any other thing. Okay. I'm going to manage my windows for you to be able to see it, how fast and smooth SolidWorks is going to create a circle for me. And I'm just going to run this block of code, Control Enter, and you can see it select the front page for me, create a new sketch for me, draw a circle for me, and then close the sketch for me. Okay, I'm going to check the radius of the circle. I select the circle, and you can see the radius of the circle is equal to 20 millimeters. So as I show you in the document, these numbers are in meters, not in millimeters. So you just be conscious that you need to convert millimeter to meters or meters to millimeters. Okay, I'm going to exit this sketch. And okay, I'm going to save this. And this was the end of our second tutorial about macro, Visual Basic, and Python. In summary, we talked about macro, how to bring it here, how to work with it, and how to use API help, how to search about our methods, and how to use its examples. Then we talk about Visual Basic, how to translate Visual Basic to Python, and how to modify our code. And then we went for Python. We talk about some libraries, how to import them. I talk about how to connect Python to SolidWorks. And then we write a very simple block of code to sketch a circle for us in SolidWorks.